will also accompany Charles, but the Queen's main throne will remain empty in the House of Lords.
Serena Farrer reporting for LBC News. Will also included in the raft of proposed legislation the legislation the government did not finish in the previous session of Parliament. It includes things like the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill aimed at preventing curbs on free speech in universities, and the Online Safety Bill, a long-awaited piece of legislation aimed at preventing cyber flashing and online stalking, among other online harms. Well, joining me now is Alice Hendy, CEO of suicide prevention charity Ripple. Alice, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Good to have you with us. Just firstly then, if you wouldn't mind, for the benefit of our listeners, tell us a little more about your charity Ripple and the work it does and aims to do.
Absolutely. So I set up my charity Ripple in memory of my brother Josh, who I lost to suicide in November 2020. Having gone through Josh's devices, I did find that he had been looking at some very harmful material online to do with self-harm and suicide. He was even provided with tips, encouragement, even pain scales for each method. And so I've set up this charity, which is a piece of technology that can be downloaded for free to intercept anybody who might be searching for similar content online and instead signpost them to get mental health support. And full details of that can be found on my website, which is ripplesuicideprevention.com.
Did you and your family, Alice, have any inkling at all that your brother was suffering so badly mentally and that indeed he had been looking at presumably online forums and so on?
Yeah, he was looking at those kinds of forums. No, is the answer. We didn't really think, everybody was struggling with their mental health at that time. It was in the peak of the COVID pandemic. Everybody was feeling isolated and lonely. But never do you think that something as permanent as this would be in his mind, really. So this charity aims to stop this happening to any other families. The technology has now been downloaded over 250,000 times, and we want to get this technology on every single machine, if possible.
So for you, and congratulations, by the way, on the moves you've made on that, but for you, what do you want to see covered today in the Online Safety Bill? It has, of course, been much delayed, hasn't it? What does it need to achieve to help prevent young people being overtly influenced and to protect them from harm?
Well, while I commend the Online Harms Bill, it just doesn't go anywhere near far enough to prevent content specifically relating to self-harm or suicide. The bill actually itself requires platforms to identify and mitigate the risk of that kind of content to children on their platform. But when it comes to over 18s, it's only the big social media giants that actually need to conduct the risk assessments. And, self-harm and suicidal ideation and mental health issues affect everybody of all ages. So the bill is effectively excluding less popular platforms, smaller platforms, forums, websites that actively encourage or provide instructions on self-harm and suicide. And they're not going to be required to conduct any risk of their content to adults. So it's nowhere near enough, and more needs to be done because people are accessing this stuff every day.
So for you, then, it's not enough for any watchdog, for example, to regulate tech giants just like Facebook or Google and so on?
No, it's nowhere near enough. There really does need to be more of a focus on this. We're losing people every single day to suicide, and we need to be holding these organisations and these individuals behind the content to account, and the current Online Harms Bill does not do that.
Is it fair to say that evidence when it comes to data clearly shows, Alice, that young men in this country are particularly susceptible to suicidal thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. 75% of suicides in this country are male. There is a massive, massive problem. Males typically don't like to talk about their mental health. They struggle to open up. There's a big feeling that you should be strong and man up, that phrase that we're trying desperately to get out of our vocab. But really, this does affect everybody. And as a result, this Online Harms Bill does need to expand to actually incorporate over 18s as well as under 18s, because it's not going far enough.
Alice, Hendy, really good to speak with you this morning. Thanks very much indeed for joining us live here on LBC News. We wish you well, of course, with your suicide prevention charity, Ripple. Alice Hendy there, CEO of that charity. LBC News Time 7:49. Elsewhere this morning, pple says it'll take some time for asylum seekers to be relocated